Hey there, welcome to this space. Since coming back from Turkey, sadly we've all been getting one by one ill, and we are struggling to shift this illness out of the household completely. But yeah, over the last week and a half it has been quite tricky dealing with illness, and then at the same time my eldest son turned 3 just 5 days after we came back, so I was preparing for that. We had a nice celebration with our family, and sadly my youngest son Sammy, he was most ill on that birthday of our eldest son, so he didn't really get to enjoy the party that much. Fortunately, we have managed to get out today and go for an autumnal walk and really appreciate the season. So I am hoping my next video will be quite autumnal themed. But this video is a little all over the place, which has kind of been how my week has been this last week and a half. Just trying to survive really. There were 2 days where we were all pretty much bedridden. Last night was still quite a tricky one for our youngest son, but we're getting there. I'm feeling much more positive, much more better. I feel like when we get ill, it really reminds us of how precious our health is, and just being fit and healthy and able to get up and do things. I always feel so just in a rut really when I'm ill and I can't do anything, but I knew that I need to listen to my body and just rest. I think on the second day of when I had it quite bad, I was tempted to get up and do a bit more because there were so many things I wanted to get done, and I am drowning with laundry and jobs and, you know, sorting out the toys. That's been on the list this week, which is almost there, but I'm just reminding myself that sometimes you do need to slow down and listen to what your body needs. And so I did have 2 full days of rest. My husband took 1 day off work because he just could see that I wasn't going to be able to do much that day, if anything. And yeah, we're finally getting out of it, but it's not completely shifted just yet. With my son turning 3, you know, I mean, to be honest, I've been getting these sorts of questions for a long time before him turning 3. Even before he was turning 1, I was starting to get questions about, when is he going to be attending nursery? Is he going to be attending nursery? Nursery being sort of the equivalent of preschool, kindergarten, I think it is in America and Canada and other countries across the world. Essentially, you know, he's 3 years old now. When will he be attending some sort of schooling or some sort of daycare? And to be honest, I've never really thought about it too deeply because I haven't really had that temptation. When Noah turned 7 months old, I went back to work. I'm a teacher, I'm a secondary history teacher, and I was on maternity leave when I had him. But I was drawn, I think that was the beginning of my journey actually, as becoming I've always been a homemaker. You can be a homemaker and work, of course you can, but in terms of like committing to it full time, that was probably the beginning, like when I was watching other videos during my pregnancy with Noah, and just then Noah arriving, and just not feeling drawn to go back to teaching or working outside of the home for some time. So I worked my notice, and then I was not working technically. I mean, I was at home doing so many different things. It's been an amazing whirlwind. But yeah, that was sort of my decision not to send him to nursery. But at that time, it was because of the expense. So we went to a couple of our local nurseries, and we realised that the cost was going to be more than what I'd earn each month. So I thought, well, why am I going to go to work? Sorry, not more than what I was earning each month, but almost the same as what I was going to be earning each month as a teacher, as a secondary teacher in the UK. So it just made me feel, well, I'm not going to go to work so hard, because as you might or might not know, but teaching is a very challenging career. I imagine across the whole world, but particularly in England, there's a lot of sort of stress and extra things that you need to do on top of the actual teaching in the classroom, which can make it really challenging. I loved it, don't get me wrong, but it is a busy job that you take home with you, and I just felt like, I don't think I'm going to manage to look after my kids and serve my home and my family and cook and all the other things and teach. Like, it's just too much energy, draining constantly throughout the day, because I'll be working 9 to 5, well, earlier than that actually, let's say 8 till 4:30, 5, and then obviously that carries on until bedtime, and then it was going to be challenging. So I made that choice not to send him to nursery. So I suppose at that time it was economic reasons, it just didn't make sense for our family. But then as I grew into motherhood and had another child and so on and so forth, I still haven't felt drawn to send him to nursery. I mean, there are some new laws in England where we are, I think we are eligible, maybe even already, but definitely from January onwards, now that Noah's turned 3, to have some free hours. I think it's 15 hours. So, Noah could go to nursery, and I've not fully drawn that out as an option. But at the same time, I don't know really. I mean, nursery is one thing, and then thinking about school is another thing, because I'm feeling very drawn to homeschooling in general. I know Noah's quite young now anyway, so his nursery years, he should be playing. He doesn't need to be doing anything too academic or too, strict or with a routine. But, fortunately for us, we have loads of activities that I take him to during the week, and now that my youngest son is on one nap a day, I can take them both in the mornings, really do something quite active. That's sort of our routine, is we go out in the mornings, come back, lunch, nap or rest, and the afternoons are normally at home, quite chilled. That's when I sort of get my jobs done, with them also helping me or being around whilst that's happening. And then dinner time comes around so quickly, and bedtime, etc. I think at the moment I'm definitely drawn to keep Noah with me, to keep my children with me, and I know that not everyone has that luxury or is able to make that economic sacrifice. We've had to make an economic sacrifice, because even when we checked and my salary was just about going to be just a little bit more than what nursery fees were going to be, technically with my salary and my husband's salary, let's say we both put half towards the nursery fees, it could still have been feasible, but we just personally decided to make that sacrifice. So we have made an economic sacrifice in that sense, but we wanted to, and we know it's temporary, it won't be forever. These years are so precious, these I would say the 0 to 6 age range, although I don't know what the future holds. It's I think it's somewhere I read that in Europe they don't send their kids to the children to nursery or school until after 6 years old. I think it's similar in Turkey as well. So my husband grew up, for the first 6 years of his life, he was also not in any sort of formal education or daycare type setting. There's so much to learn from being at home and just being part of, the routines at home, doing chores, doing gardening, watching the seasons and what's happening around you. In our case, obviously, we're a bilingual household, multilingual actually, but with a focus on 2 languages, and gradually we're going to add in the other 2 as well, a little bit more systematically, or a little bit more than what we're doing already. But yeah, just both me and my husband being around and speaking to him constantly about everything, I think it has really contributed to his, excellence in both English and Turkish speaking and understanding and communication. I imagine if he was at nursery or daycare, or for the last 2 years, especially in terms of Turkish, I feel like probably wouldn't be as good as what it is now, because there wouldn't have been that much time for him to hear and learn, and also just the holidays that we've had. We've just been to Turkey, and that was during term time, with the commitment to nursery and whatever else and school in the future. We probably wouldn't have that that flexibility to go away, and that's one of the things that does draw me towards home educating, homeschooling, whatever you want to term it. It's the travel and the flexibility. Like me and my husband met in China. He was living there for 10 years, I was living there for 2 years, and we still have so many roots over there, so much family, but friends that are like family. And if if we're home educated, we could go and spend 6 months or even a year abroad in China, in Turkey, in other parts of the world, find a really cool Airbnb in the nature, and that really excites me, because I'm someone that loved travelling. I solo travelled so many parts of the world, and that's how I met my husband when I was in China after a trip like around Southeast Asia, and that is where I've learned the most, like the amazing things, the culture, the language, just the things that you see, the nature, the appreciation, experience, learning through experience and observation is so precious, and in the classroom they try to recreate that, by doing experiments and watching documentaries and immersing yourself that way. But there's only so much that can be taught and done in the generic classroom setting, I feel, and I'm speaking as a teacher, so I've taught for almost 5 years in the UK, and then I was cover teaching before that in the UK, and then also teaching in China, abroad. I've got that experience in that sense. I mean, schools are brilliant, don't get me wrong. I can see both sides to this, but I feel like my calling is towards, a setting where it's more immersed into the world rather than stuck inside, especially on sunny days. So in that sense, I think the flexibility of home educating and the opportunities and the options and the choices that you have with it are so amazing, and such a positive aspect of homeschooling.